Good day, fellow rockers and moshers. Welcome to the Metal Connection, the connection to all things metal. I'm J-Dub, and today on the show, I've gathered some guests here, and we are discussing our three favorite Alice Cooper albums. So maybe just to start her off, I will get some introductions here. So right below me, we got Keith. Keith, if you want to introduce yourself.
Hey everybody, I'm Keith here in Kamloops, BC. Been collecting vinyl for a good 15 years or so, and it's great to be here and talk about some Alice.
Yeah, thanks for joining me too. That's rad, man. And then right beside him is David Bigdog. If you want to introduce yourself.
Hi everybody, I'm David Biggs. I'm your rock and roll big dog. I am from the East Coast, United States of America.
Yeah, great stuff. And then right beside me, we got Chad here. Chad, if you want to introduce yourself.
Hey there, I am Chad. I am from Vernon, British Columbia, and I've been listening to rock and collecting music since I was 2.
Yeah, that's cool stuff. And then there we go. I think we'll kickstart the show off now and do our Alice Cooper picks. So yeah, we've all picked three of our three favorite Alice Cooper picks. And yeah, obviously, and I will start the show actually before the show. Me and David were talking. I'm like, I don't even know how many studio albums Alice Cooper has actually officially. I had to count, and he has 28 studio albums. That is very difficult to be familiar with every single one, kind of like off the top of your heart sort of thing. So there is a lot to choose from. So I'm kind of excited to see if there's going to be lots of overlaps, what eras we kind of dig the most. So there's a lot of stuff going on here. But anyway, I don't want to put Keith on the spot or nothing, but Keith, I will get you to go up first with your third favorite.
All righty. So I think for that one, I'm going to have to go with Welcome to My Nightmare.
Oh, wow. Going back old school.
Yeah. Gotta love this one, right? This is when he went solo officially, I guess, eh?
Oh, yeah. Good point. Never thought about that.
Yeah. And went back with producer Bob Ezrin there. And it's a killer album, right? You got Welcome to My Nightmare. You got Black Widow. Only Women Bleed, right? That's such a good ballad. Department of Youth, just a crazy anthematic song there. And we got, what else? Steven, where he talks about the little child inside all of us, Steven. And I think it's something like he's a 7-year-old boy that is what makes him happy or something. It's like the inner child, I guess, is sort of what he was going with that one. But it's just a overall amazing album. We got Vincent Price on there before Thriller, even doing some spoken word. Just great.
Forgot about that.
Yeah.
Wasn't it his first real full-blown concept album?
I think so, eh?
75.
Yeah, 75 was when it came out. What do we got here? We got the label on the Classic Atlantic, right? I'll pull it out. Yeah, I found this album at a thrift store about, oh God, must have been like 8 years ago now, but just a mint copy. But totally gotta love that one.
Yeah, I guess
The thing that I love about that album is that's where Alice met his wife.
Right.
As well.
That's right. She was one of the dancers.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, one of the dancers there, and I guess they just kind of hooked up, and she stuck with him through thick and thin, through a lot of his alcoholism and drug use, right? Had it pretty bad there, so she must be quite a lady to put up with that for so long.
And actually, I recently just got Alice Cooper Goes to Hell there right behind me, and a friend did mention that that's pretty well another concept album for him as well. That one's very out there.
Yeah. Almost disco like, hey, that one. Like that was the thing about Alice though, right? He wasn't afraid to be current and experiment with like the styles of the time.
Definitely an experiment, yeah, for sure. So I guess he was going through a bit of a phase here in the mid 70s where he was like doing some concept albums and kind of, well, obviously he was a little whacked out here and there. So
Oh God, yeah, even worse in the 80s. Oh my God.
Yeah, so that the album you chose there, Welcome to My Nightmare, 75. What years Goes to Hell? Does anyone actually know it? What year is that?
I think
70?
that's 70. That might be 76. Let me see.
So then he would have sort of done two concepts back to back.
76, yeah.
76.
Well,
Yeah,
I think Welcome to My Nightmare is more of like a full-blown, like kind of a rock opera. I mean, I've seen the shows on DVD and they were insane. You know, he did the whole thing from, you know, when he was Steven, like, you know, he was a little kid all the way to where he got older and he's in the straitjacket and there's monsters running around and stuff on stage. So I thought that I have that DVD somewhere. I haven't watched it in probably 20 years, but those shows were absolutely insane. I mean, to be a kid, like if I was a little kid, like, you know, teenager watching that show, my mind would have been blown.
Another thing I know about that tour is I think Disney designed some of the actual set pieces and monsters as well on that tour.
Oh wow, that's really cool. And yeah, it's like I think the 70s for his like stage show. I obviously I wasn't around the 70s, so I don't actually know. But you know, for the 70s Alice Cooper shows, that was probably would be the prime point to see Alice Cooper stage show wise. That's when he was bringing all the props, trying to be outlandish as he could, as controversial as he could, you know, shock rock as he could, horror shock rock as he could. So he definitely laid the groundwork for all that sort of stuff. David Biggs took off. He's probably going to go get the DVD or something that we were just talking about. But I was gonna say he's up next, sort of thing. But let's see what he's got going on here.
I'll find the DVDs after that when I'll look for them later on. I have DVDs of Alice.
Anyway, yeah. I was going to send it over to you to get it up, send it to you to get your first pick here.
All right, so your rock and roll big dog is going to go with something probably not as well known as Welcome to My Nightmare, but I think is equally as good, if not better, because I'm really, you know, I kind of grew up in the 80s, so 80s is more of my style, but I love all the 70s albums, don't get me wrong. But my third pick is Constrictor with Kane Roberts on guitar, you know, the Muscle Man. Oh my God. Dude, this album is so much fun. And a lot of Alice Cooper stuff, you know, a lot of the earlier stuff was like really socio-political and had like big overriding themes. There's no theme to this. The theme of this is just fun. So that's why I like it. And it's got, you know, some of the greatest Alice Cooper songs on here that I love. Teenage Frankenstein. It's got Thrill My Gorilla. And one of my favorite Alice Cooper songs ever, Trick Bag. I don't know if anybody remembers that song. But the chorus goes, Trick Bag. It's just a really cool song. And, you know, remember Kane Roberts? And let's see if I have a picture of him somewhere here. Muscle guy.
I loved his guitar when he was touring.
And actually, he put out some solo albums, and he actually can sing too. His solo album, I'll go grab it before we're done. It's an
Did
awesome
you hear
solo
the song that they put out? I think a year and a half ago, where Alice did some vocals for Kane on an album for a song.
I haven't gotten Kane's newest album yet. It's kind of hard. It's hard to find, but I would love to hear that. This is just classic 80s, big anthems, fun stuff. There's no socio-political message. There's no themes here. There's no you know, rock opera like Welcome to My Nightmare. It's just patent 80s hard rock riffs. Is it shock rock? Not really. It's not the shock rock of the 70s, but it's just hard rock riffs, and I love all the choruses. And I'll play this in my car a lot. It's great driving music. Constrictor, not a very popular Cooper album, but and the cover. Come on, what about that cover?
What I like about that
his
album,
neck, coming out of his mouth. Yeah.
It's got the man behind the mask, which was used in Friday the 13th Part 6. I think is on that one too. That's just like you said, it's just a fun album, that one.
Yeah. I mean, every time I hear that song "Thrill My Gorilla," you can't help but laugh at all the double entendres that he uses. It's just funny. Now the production on this is not the greatest. I mean, it's got that kind of 80s tinny production. I think they would pick it up with Trash and Raise Your Fist and Yell. So the production here is not the greatest, but the songs are just great. So that's my third pick.
I actually thought Raise Your Fist was before it, but you're right. It was just after.
Yeah, I think this was 86. Raise Your Fist was 87. And that had much better production on it to my ears. I hear much more trebly and has a deeper bottom end. This one has no bottom end, but it could be just a problem with the mastering from the vinyl to the CD. They did a poor job on mastering some of these CDs in the 80s.
Yeah, it's a great pick. Yeah, super fun, kind of goofy, fun, kind of light metal album. I think it's kind of metal-y, or not really, sort of. But yeah, that's a super fun pick. I'll try not to say too much on it. It may show up on my list. But Chad,
Gonna have to bring the hammer down.
yeah, Chad, if you want to go next year with your third favorite pick.
All right, I'm gonna go with his 2000 album, Brutal Planet. It was his 14th studio album, and it was kind of, it was his first big foray into going into like the really kind of almost more metal than he has gone previously in the past. And this was one of the stage shows that I wish I really could have gotten to see, because it had quite the amazing setup as well. I mean, a lot of it was social fiction in this particular album as well. This is one of the few albums that actually didn't have Bob Ezrin as a producer. It was Bob Marlette on this one. And I mean, when it came out at a very pivotal time for me, and I've always loved kind of that era of Alice for myself. Like some of the Brutal Planet, I mean, I would play that particular song a lot of times if I was trying to pump myself up for something, along with Wicked Young Man. And then, I mean, the first several times I listened to the album, I didn't realize some of the social cues that he was trying to put out with the album. Like, I mean, like, Take It Like a Woman, that song, I mean, I didn't realize what socially he was trying to do with that particular song. It had a lot of great songs that I enjoyed in his styles.
Yeah, I think. Oh, there's some good. I think I really did love this album more when I first kind of discovered it, but I think in the years recent, I've kind of dropped it down a little bit. Again, the opening track, "Brutal Planet," is just a kind of a super heavy metal song, right? Banger. And I found the rest of the album is very like industrial. There's a lot of industrial elements, like metal industrial, which I guess metal industrial was kind of a thing. That's middle '90s, Nine Inch Nails, and a bunch of things were kind of doing that. So maybe he was just trying to think. Maybe he was a little behind the ball on that. I think if it probably came out a couple years earlier, it probably would have done a bit better for him, but like in terms of sales and things like that. But I think he was probably a little bit behind. But I think as the album moved on, it's like kind of a mid-pace industrial, kind of heavy, sludgy kind of industrial thing going on there. But yeah, no, there's a ton of great sound of tracks for me too. Even just like looking at the tracks, like that "Wicked Young Man," "Blow Me a Kiss" is cool. "Gimme's" cool. So there's some cool songs on here for sure. I know David in particular might have his own opinions on the album.
I was listening to the album maybe, I don't know, a few weeks ago, a couple months ago, and I was trying to get into it. Yeah, the first song, the title track, is really, really good. But I just find the lyrically is below par for Alice. I think, I don't know, just the lyrics sound a little bit juvenile to me. Like maybe he didn't have enough good ideas and he was maybe pandering to some kind of maybe subset of metal people that he was trying to get into it. Maybe maybe a younger crowd or something. But it's heavy, and it's right. I think it's got a little bit of an industrial kick to it, which is it's jarring for me to hear as an Alice Cooper fan. I'm more used to the 80s hard rock vibe. So to hear this was a really a little eye-opening for me. It's not that it's a bad record, it just doesn't do it for me. But that first title track is very, very heavy. I do like it. And then it kind of just doesn't really do it for me. But I do have the DVD, and I don't think I've watched this DVD maybe in years, but he does a lot of tracks from all the eras on this in this show. But I'm gonna have to go back and watch this now. You got me. He does My Generation by The Who. Okay. Yeah, Take It Like a Woman. So that's why I love these shows, because it makes me go back and sort of reevaluate albums that I thought maybe weren't that great. And also on the other hand, makes me reevaluate albums that I thought were like the best ever. And I'm like, well, maybe I need to go listen to that and think about it again. So that's why these shows are so great.
I think it's a good pick. I'm glad it got brought up because I think Brutal Planet's cool. I think it's definitely interesting that it was something kind of totally different. It wasn't a straightforward rocker. It wasn't an old 70s psychedelic kind of trancey type stuff that he was doing in the 70s. So it is quite different. And that is one of the cool things about Alice Cooper, is that he can pull off many different vibes and eras and styles, right? Like even from the newest album, Detroit Stories, sorry. And Detroit Stories is, I thought it was great. I don't imagine it's going to make anyone's top 3 because it is so new, but I thought Detroit Stories is great. I don't know if anyone else has heard it.
Haven't even opened it yet.
Well, I mean,
Still
that's
sealed.
Yeah, awesome. That's why I chose Brutal Planet, because it is one of his more obscure track listings.
Yeah, that's cool. I'm glad it got brought up. Actually, that's something different. And for me, I was going to do one of those things where I'm like, oh, okay, I'm such a pro at these shows that I'm prepared to do some live in swapping here, some live in show swapping based on what other people are picking. Like, I wasn't gonna say if we all end up having the same picks, like, okay, maybe I'll just do some live in show swapping. So far, nothing has gotten kind of double picked, and I'm not really sure where to go on right now, but I will stick to something I definitely have in my top 3 regardless. Is I got to throw up what we brought up, that the album that came after the album that came after Constrictor, even though I love Constrictor, but I'm going to throw up the super heavy Raise Your Fist and Yell, just an all-out heavy metal album. And for me, being kind of mainly a metal guy, this is totally up my alley here. Like, David did mention it's got a thicker production on there. I don't pay attention to the production, but it is a super thick metal type production that's going on here. Obviously, we're right in the thick of the heavy metal boom here in the later half of the 80s. Everyone was doing heavy metal, going back from Van Halen. Everyone wanted to be Eddie Van Halen, so everybody started a metal band after that. And here we are. Alice Cooper got with the times. He said, hey, heavy metal's big. I can fucking do heavy metal. So he did heavy metal. And I think Constrictor's heavy metal too, but it's a little more goofy. And this one, he kind of darkened it up a little bit. But yeah, Raise Your Fist and Yell, just a great album. I can pretty well, I normally kind of make notes of my favorite tracks and things like that, but this is one of those albums where it's pretty well every track. I think there's one kind of, actually no, every song is great. I even listened to it kind of actually today, but even the last track, number 10, Roses on White Lace, that song is awesome. That's a great song. But other than that, the whole album is like a rocker. Like, it's like we're talking like Alice Cooper does metal here. So I couldn't leave this off my list just for, like, sure, I'd like to pick some obscure picks to be different or cool, but like this album is undeniable for the rocker in me, so I had to go with this.
Terrible cover though. Cover's terrible.
I love this cover.
You like that? What's the worst?
Absolutely.
It's so typically 80s it hurts.
No, oh, I don't know. I love those cheesy 80s covers, like like Attacker, Battle at Helm's Deep, where it's got that corny dragon and the corny guy. I like these corny covers.
Well, it can't be worse than, I mean, I guess Constrictor's pretty bad. I mean, this is just a, I mean, this is a corny album. Maybe that's why I like it so much, because it's so corny.
It is kind of corny,
It's
but really
kinda corny.
fun, really fun.
Like, I think most Alice Cooper guys would kind of laugh at you if you said this was one of your favorite albums.
Oh, darn, that's too bad. I guess
It
some
is.
people-
They would laugh. But I like it. I don't care. This one's good too.
Yeah, I expected Raise Your Fist and Yell to show up somewhere else on the show, but it's definitely in my top three, so I just can't leave it out, even though if I do plan to do some intro swapping later on, but that's got to definitely make it there for me. Again, the whole album's great, so I'm not really gonna do it like a track review because every track is pretty well a rocker. And yeah, I'm kind of I guess no one else is going to chime in or whatever. Maybe it'll show up on some other list. Who knows? Maybe Keith's not interested in that one. I don't know. But
I like that one. That one's heavy, and it's got its melodic moments too, almost, right? Like it's just it's a good listen. And the thing about Alice is, like, once he went solo, he kind of just didn't take himself as seriously anymore, in a sense, right? He's just like having fun and just this is who I am, and we're just gonna go with it. And you can either dig it or not, So
I mean,
I like that one.
yeah, definitely through the 80s, there's no denying that. Obviously there was that heavy metal boom, and he wanted to be a little more rockin', so to speak, obviously coming out of that 70s psychedelic trance that he's in. So, he's stepping away from that and trying to get a little more current, with all the glam and hair metal things that was going on. Even though that's not hair metal, this is a full straightforward rocker, but it's still, he had to have seen what other people are doing, right? But again, Alice Cooper is not really a copycat per se. He is kind of doing his own thing a lot of the times, but I'm sure he wasn't oblivious to that heavy metal was a big thing, because for him to just all of a sudden come out and do a full-on heavy metal album was probably throwing some people for a loop. But a lot of bands were doing those heavy metal albums in the 80s. I'll try to think of an example during the show, but I kind of forget right off the bat. But yeah, a lot of bands were doing some straightforward 80s metal albums in the 80s.
And then some of these tracks were used in the obscure cult movie Prince of Darkness. I don't know if any of you watched that film.
Really?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
From Raise Your Fist and Yell?
Yeah, Prince of Darkness.
Oh. With like which songs?
I could definitely see this album like being a background to some horror movies and things like that back in the day, for sure.
Huh. Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, like in the particular movie itself, Alice was playing one of the homeless people that titular characters in that film.
Wow. I wonder if that's on Netflix.
I'm surprised Alice didn't do more acting, because he's just so well spoken and just composed and everything. Like you think he would have really delved into the acting world a bit more.
It doesn't seem till like more recent years that he's really kind of jumped into the more acting side of things.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's kind of ironic or coincidence, or not a coincidence, but it is quite interesting that you do bring that acting and movie thing up, because obviously the big one that everyone knows, I'm sure you guys already know what's going to come out of my mouth next about the big acting gig that he did that kind of got him reintroduced with some of the younger fans, maybe even like us, right? Was Wayne's World.
That's
Oh,
right.
Right? They bow down, they go to the Alice Cooper show, they show the Alice Cooper bits, like the live stage show, they show him do some songs. What the hell song was it? It would have been like, I think Poison. I think he just said Poison. I think Poison would have just been on Wayne's World, I believe.
I'm pretty sure it was Feed My Frankenstein.
I believe it was.
Right. There we go. From Hey Stupid, yeah, it's Feed My Frankenstein. Good call. So it shows the live bit. And then Wayne and Garth go backstage. They do "We're Not Worthy." They meet Alice Cooper. Alice Cooper says some things I can't remember exactly. So I think that is probably the biggest acting gig that people know him from. I know when I was a kid, I would have seen it, Wayne's World, and that's probably one of them the first times I would have been introduced to Alice Cooper. Maybe not the first time, but you know, definitely up there with one of the first times.
Yeah. I think, yeah, one of the last movies he was in was probably, I forgot the movie. It was the one with him and the Johnny Depp movie, From the Shadows. They had 3 Alice songs while he was at the ballroom scene.
Oh, cool.
And then another short role, but it was the movie Suck, which had a lot of, the classic rock singers all featured in that one as well.
Yeah, cool. And it is actually also, it is interesting that you bring up Johnny Depp, because obviously he probably would have got that movie because they would have been hanging out so much because they were in that band. I forget the band, but
Hollywood Vampires.
Yeah, that Hollywood Vampires. They were doing that Hollywood Vampires thing for a couple of years. I think they even put out a covers album, and then like a couple of covers albums or an original album or something like that. But yeah, that's quite interesting that Johnny Depp was playing guitar for an Alice Cooper fronted band. Weird times. David, were you familiar with that Hollywood Vampires gig and things like that?
I heard some of their songs, but I didn't really think anything of it. I kind of thought it sounded a little thrown together in kind of a vanity project. And it was with Joe Perry, I think, too. Joe Perry was in there. Alice Cooper, Johnny Depp, and I don't know, some other guys maybe. But I think I heard a couple tracks and I was just like, it's not really anything I wanted to pursue.
I was under the impression that they just made like a covers album, and then for me, I'm not like a big covers guy, so I was like, I just don't want to hear a bunch of cover songs. But
I think they did a studio album, but I don't quote me on that.
and then I think they did come out with a studio album after that I'm not familiar with at all. But I know the covers thing just kind of turns me off. I was like, oh, okay, they're all getting together doing the cover songs, the cover concerts. That's cool. It is cool, but it's nothing that I really need to like check out as like listening at home. Like I don't need to hear a bunch of studio covers, but live, I'm sure it'd be cool, things like that. I'm sure Alice Cooper had fun performing songs that he grew up liking and songs that influenced him. So, obviously that's things that artists do, or they cover songs that they were inspired by and bands that they were influenced by. So I'm sure that was a cool thing for him or whatever. And obviously Johnny Depp was just happy just to be on stage and be like, hey, I'm a rock star. So he was playing Mr. Rockstar. I'm sure he was having a good time with that. And cool. So we'll get Keith up next with his second pick.
Nice. Alrighty. Well, I'm sure this is on a couple people's list, but we can't leave out the $1 Billion Babies. Just the artwork on this album. I love like the alligator skin or snake skin or whatever it's supposed to be. And
the big question is, does yours have the dollar?
You know what? That is a good question. I'm going to check it out right now. Let's see. I know my Schools Out doesn't have the panties.
I could never find one with that. I could never find one with those.
David asked me before the show if mine had the dollar, and I actually just recently got mine, but no, mine definitely doesn't.
No, mine doesn't have the dollar, but if you sort of look in there, it looks like it's printed on the inside, right?
That's super cool.
Same with mine.
Never noticed that, but I think this is Alice at the height with the band, right? The production is just so good and big and alive. What jams we got on here? We got Elected, right? That was a rework of one of their older songs, I guess, Reflected. We got I Love the Dead, which is you just picture Alice just croning in a graveyard or something, just wandering around, like professing his love for the dead. And then you got like Sick Things and $1 Billion Babies, Hello Hooray. Like everyone is just memorable on this album. And I don't know if it would necessarily be the best, but it's definitely in my top 3 for sure.
That would be a 10 out of 10 album for me.
Hmm.
Just surely based on the songs alone and all the different directions that he goes in with the all the songs you mentioned. You've got like hard rock. You've got I don't even know what we classify sick things as, or I Love the Dead. They're like death ballads or something.
Right. Yeah. It's just he was on to something at that point, and I think it's very similar to Welcome to My Nightmare, almost the theatrics of it and the dark horror elements, which are definitely my favorite part of Elvis.
Yeah. That Alice album is just a 10 out of 10 for me. It didn't make my list because I wanted to go in a different direction. But Billion Dollar Babies, I mean, it's one of the best albums I've ever heard.
Oh, for sure.
And I
You
mean,
can't
it
go
was
wrong with that one.
the second last album with the original band before kind of branching off into the solo career. And I mean, I think they really left it kind of all on the table there.
Oh, for sure. They it was a soaring album for sure. And I always think I'm 36, but if I was alive during that time, I swear Alice would have been like my go-to, right? Like my Beatles of that era. It's a lot of music to explore, and just the shocking aspect of his career, right? Like the parents just must have hated Alice so much.
Well, they thought he was the devil. I think I was watching documentaries, and they really thought he was like the devil or Satan, or the kids were follow Satan if they listened to his music.
Oh, for
Yeah,
sure.
we laugh now about it, but 50 years ago, that was a thing.
Well, that's just it, right? And you can see why, right? The whole infamous chicken story, right? Like, I think that's what really kind of jump started the career, and it's just there's no such thing as bad press.
Oh, yeah.
What?
I mean, the whole chicken gimmick. I mean, he thought chickens could fly. Bird has feathers, which means it should fly, and clearly the legend grows.
Well, he had it. Ozzy had to top him with biting the head off a dove or a bat. Actually, he did both, dove and a bat.
That's right. I can just see Ozzy walking into like a music executives meeting or something, and he's just all whacked out and biting the heads off animals. Like, legendary.
I would have laughed if I saw that. I mean, I guess I don't think the record execs were very thrilled with that, but I would have laughed. I'd been like, he's hired. We're gonna hire this guy.
That's right. This guy's gonna sell some albums.
Yeah.
Nowadays, the Dove community would try to sue him.
Oh yeah, everybody would sue him or something. Yeah, you're right.
You get PETA there and bleeding hearts.
Yeah.
My poor doves. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Interesting pick. I know that album's actually one of those albums where it's like super hard to digest because it's very like it's very like, I don't know if there's proper words, but it's very in depth. Like there's a lot of
layers.
Yeah, there's a lot of layers. That's what I'm trying to say. A lot of layers to that album. A lot of stuff going on where, yeah, there's some background, a lot of background, like keyboardy trance kind of stuff, and a lot of cool stuff going on. I really like that. I still like that opening track, that hello, hooray, hooray, hello. I think it's a staple for his concerts. I believe he opens up with that show. He opens up a lot of the times his concerts with that song, I believe. Doesn't he?
Let's see.
He used to open up. I think a bunch of I think the shows that I checked out, he would open the show with some of that. Again, he probably did switch his openers from time to time, but I think that was one of the openers he did use for quite a while.
Yeah. That album's that's what I was talking about before. It's got that big socio-political aspect where he's talking about, politics with Hello Hooray and Elected and all that kind of stuff, and the government corruption. And I think that's Alice at the Alice Cooper band at the peak of their powers with songwriting and the theatrical elements and the socio-political aspect. So you've got like three things that are going on there, and then you've got all the layers in the actual music. So that's where there's a lot of hooks and there's a lot to digest there. It's not just like pop rock or heavy metal of Constrictor or Raise Your Fist and Yell. There's actually a lot of messages in there, which I don't know if he intended or not, because I think it, a lot of it didn't resonate with a lot of the kids, but there were a lot of messages in there which even today hold true 50 years later, right?
Yeah, cool stuff. And we'll actually you're talking away, so we'll just keep going with you. You're up next.
Right. So let's see. I'm doing a mid-show change here. My second pick is going to be, actually, it's another 80s album. And I don't know. Maybe people are going to laugh at me at this pick, but I think it's a wonderful album. I love it. Zipper Catches Skin, baby.
Fantastic choice.
Thank you. And this is like, what's that, like 80s? What's the new wave almost rock, where it's like got pop rock guitars and you've got really crazy lyrics, songs like Zorro's Ascent, I Am the Future, No Baloney, Homo Sapiens, I Like Girls. I mean, just stupid as titles, but the songs are awesome. There's so many hooks in these songs, and there's a big synthy keyboard presence. It's got that early 80s sound. It's new wave, right? It's got that new wave sound. But
Also,
yeah.
I didn't really think of it like that. I thought, actually, I thought that I love that album. That album was really good.
Yeah, I mean, this just showcases Alice's sense of humor. He's got a really wicked sense of humor. And look at it. Obviously, his Zipper's Catching Skin right there on the back cover. And then this is one of my favorite covers, and the reason why is because it's got like all the lyrics printed in really small print, and then in like a little flash of blood here is they highlight the album title, Zipper Catches Skin. But I think that's a brilliant marketing tool, because what albums have just complete thousands of words on them? So that would really catch my eye in the record store if I was back in the 80s and I saw this in the record store. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna check this out. And you look at the back and you're like, well, what's going on here? You read the album cover, the title, and then you go in and you buy the album and you read some of the lyrics, and they're crazy. These are crazy lyrics. I mean, this is Alice at his most humorous. He's having fun here. I don't know how drunk he is at this point, but I think this is after his From the Inside days, so maybe he's a little bit more with it. But like we were talking about before, this is him, kind of staying with the times and going with the flow. He's not back in the 70s doing, those crazy rock operas. He's doing, new wavy stuff. There's still riffs on here. There's really good riffs. And I just like his vocals, and I like his sense of humor. That's why I like this album so much.
Yeah, I definitely want to check that one out. I haven't really listened to much of that, but yeah, that one and like Flush the Fashion, it's definitely more new wavy and kind of synthy, and I'm into that stuff, the sort of punkier new wave stuff. So should definitely pick them up next time I get the opportunity.
First time I heard this album, I was like scratching my head, and I'm like, what? This is Alice Cooper? And then, after listening to it multiple times, and then years later, I'm like, okay, I get it. I understand what he's doing here. So it took me a while to get this album. When I first heard it, I'm like, this is Alice Cooper? This doesn't make any sense. This is not Welcome to My Nightmare or $1 Billion Babies or even Killer or even Muscle of Love. This is something totally weird and different. And that's why I love Alice Cooper so much, because he does weird and different stuff.
Yeah, I don't own that. And when I was kind of going through Alice Cooper's, I'm like, damn, this album. Oh, I play a lot of rock. When I go to work, I play a lot of like rock songs. So I tend to listen to a lot of different stuff just casually at work. And Zipper Catches My Skin is an album that I play all the time at work. And so much just so that I told David, I was like, hey, I don't own Zipper Catches Skin. Do you have it? Because I might need you to show it for me, or even if it doesn't make my top three, I am going to bring it up anyway, because I do think the album is that good that it needs to be brought up tonight. So I'm glad that
hilarious stuff. It's hilarious stuff, and you can play it. You can play it at work because it's it doesn't have any really shocking lyrics or anything. It actually sounds like a pop album to me. But if you play it for people, they'll be like, well, "Who are you listening to? These are crazy lyrics and the crazy vocal melodies, like especially on Tag You're It. I mean, come on, crazy."
I love
it.
song.
I love there's a line in the opening track, that Zorro track, where he says something about run like a, for catch me, run like a fox, something like that. It's just really cool. I like that. I forget what he says exactly, but
I'm
you
the
know.
fox and I go where I want to go.
Yeah.
I'm a fox, where I go where I want. I just this is a really cool kind of catchy chorus, and then right from there, you're like, okay, this actually album is good, you know, right from that opening song. And I don't have the track listing in front of me or nothing. I can't like I can't memorize the track listing of 28 studio albums, but I think track number 3 is really awesome too. But most of that album is really good. I think there might be like 1 or 2 maybe skippers for me, but other than that, the whole album is actually really good.
Yeah, I mean, no baloney, Homo Sapiens. I mean, that's
Yeah,
hilarious.
no Homo Sapiens. Yeah, I knew it. I wanted to bring that up. That song's cool too.
That song's hilarious. And the thing is, it's not heavy, Alice Cooper. It's not heavy at all in any stretch of the imagination. It's fun. There are riffs though, but it's not heavy. It doesn't have any kind of bottom end to it. It's not like, it's not a Brutal Planet. It's not a Killer. It's not a Welcome to My Nightmare. It stands on its own, and that's why it's really, really neat, because it's a different sound. And the first time you hear it, you're gonna be like, okay. Second time you hear it, you'll be like, okay.
And yeah, like the back half is really strong too. The back half is great. The last like like 4 or 5 songs are all great. I'd say like for me, if I had to choose one overlooked, underrated Alice Cooper album, that's it.
Meh. That's good. I play this a lot.
For me, that would be like my most like number 1 choice for like the most old, like underrated Alice Cooper album, because I think a lot of people were considering that like the dark era. Like I think From the Inside, Data, that one, or is considered like his dark era. People are calling it.
Yeah, Special Forces, Flush of Fashion.
When he was, you know, apparently really whacked out. Apparently, so I don't know if Alice Cooper has a book, but I know Bigdog there. You read. I know you would try to read some books. I don't know if you ever read an Alice Cooper book or anything like that.
Oh yeah, yeah, I have one.
Have you read Golf Monster?
That's a book. Sorry, Chad.
Yeah, it's a book. It's kind of an autobiography / golf book, where it's kind of called Golf Monster.
So what is like the full story behind this dark era? Like, was he just whacked out, or is that like rumors, or what does he have to say about that?
I think that was his blackout period where he was drinking. That was the worst of his drinking. I think
And
that's why they call it the
that
blackout era.
That literally just means he was blacked out.
Yeah, this book was really good. This was written by the bassist Dennis Dunaway, this guy, and I read this. I don't know. I read this I think a couple of years ago. It's actually a really, really good book. He was like, I don't think he did a lot of drinking and drugs, so he's the most lucid out of all these guys. So he remembers a lot of stuff, a lot of facts about day-to-day stuff with Alice and tours, and it's actually really good. He doesn't trash anybody. You know, he just pretty much gives, you know, facts about what's going on. And he actually seems like a really nice guy. And yeah, he married his wife. Yeah. He talks about Glenn Buxton, who passed away. It's a really good book. I definitely recommend this.
And he was just in the original Alice Cooper band lineup, or did he stay on for the later
No,
one?
he was in the original band, I think, up through what was the last album with them? What was the last one? Muscle of Love. I think this was the last original Alice Cooper band album, Muscle of Love. Which it's a good album, but
That album's good too.
yeah, this is the one that kind of broke the band up. I guess Alice wanted to, you know, he wanted to do other stuff, and they just wanted to kind of rock. He wanted to do more theatrical stuff, and I don't think the band was really into it. I think that's what I remember from this book. And so he just decided to go on and fire the band and go on his own, which obviously worked out for him. But it's sad. I mean, the way the whole band ended, the original band, it's just sad, you know. I think they tried to actually have their own band. I think the band was actually called Billion Dollar Babies. And I don't have any CDs or vinyl from them because I think they're really expensive. But I would love to hear it, what they came up with. Probably could hear it on YouTube.
Mhm.
But yeah, good book. I recommend it. Dennis Dunaway, the bassist. Pretty good book.
Yeah, cool stuff. Great. I figured you would have read an Alice Cooper book somewhere along your travels.
I haven't read Golf Monster yet. I kind of want to. The thing is, I'm not really into sports or golf, so if it's just about golf, I'm not really too interested.
Right, yeah, you are right. Alice Cooper is a big golf nut.
He's a golf addict.
Yeah.
Well, as Alice constantly says, he traded one addiction for another.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, that's probably a better one to have, right? Sports.
Yeah. Golf, when I went golfing one time, it's over my head. Not my thing, but golf's obviously one of the most popular things in the world, so it is what it is. But Chad, if you want to go up next here with your next pick.
Okay, I actually did a flop myself, and I am gonna go with From the Inside, because I mean,
Dove and Hammer. Yeah, I can't say I played that one recently, or I don't even remember much about it.
like,
I'm gonna have to pull it out for you.
But, yeah.
I'll go get it.
But that's okay.
for me, I have fond memories because my dad had the whole collection. So my favorite was, to take out the album and open up all the different doors in the vinyl as well, because they had all the different characters that he, references in his songs during that album. I mean, and that was basically, him kind of singing about his times during, just getting out of the asylum for his drinking problems.
Yeah, that's a great cover too. That is one of the better Alice Cooper covers, I'd say.
Well, I mean, I don't know if you can see my patch on my jacket well enough on your camera, but it is the From the Inside patch.
There's a little bit of glare going on, but I can vaguely kind of see it actually. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, for me, I've always been one of the types who has issues or what have you, and going back and listening to some of those songs from that album, it helped me in my own way as well. I mean, it's got a lot of fun tracks on there as well. Because every once in a while, on his live shows, he pulls out "I Wish I Was Born in Beverly Hills" every once in a while. And then obviously Nurse Rosetta, he's brought that one back a lot as well during, usually when he's strapped up and about to be one of his various tortures during the shows.
Well, and what's such amazing inspiration for an album, you don't have to look much further, you just got out of an insane asylum. It's what am I going to write about? Well, I'm going to write about what just happened to me and all these characters that he must have met. And I just can't imagine being thrown in an insane asylum for alcohol. They didn't throw him in rehab or nothing. It's just right to the loony bin. Maybe it's what he needed.
Well, he's probably got one of the best recovery stories, because I think what finally put him in there was he's looking at all of his friends at the time. They were going because of alcoholism, addictions and whatnot, and I think it was just everything all culminating. His marriage was, I believe, getting along in there as well, and it just all culminated. And I think it came out in the song perfectly.
I was going to say something similar along with Keith, where I think it's really cool that as soon as you do kind of read the title and you look at the cover, From the Inside, that he was kind of coming out of a kind of insane asylum type thing. And yeah, it's kind of very kind of straightforward in that sense, where the title kind of just puts it out there.
It's a total concept album. Right? It's all concept material. I listened to this album a lot. I spun this a lot back when I got it, probably 25 years ago. This is a Metal Blade edition. So I remember buying all these.
It is interesting later when CDs did get released that Metal Blade did reissue, because those were once CDs came out, those actually never got released on CD for like 10 years or something like that. Whatever CDs came out in 85 or 86 or whatever, but then those actually didn't get reissued on CDs until like the 90s.
This was from 1990.
Yeah.
1990 reissue.
Yeah, and then Metal Blade helped them out and then reissued them finally. Yeah.
I bought so many of those Metal Blade that I remember there was a store here called Circuit City, and they had all these, and they were wicked cheap. This is another Metal Blade.
So you can see,
Yep.
you can zoom in, but yeah, actually, all that black thing does say Metal Blade on it. So it's interesting because obviously Metal Blade wasn't around in '73, but they kind of did Alice Cooper a solid, a favor, so to speak, and reissued the earlier Alice Cooper albums on CD for him, the ones that never got reissued, that never got released on CD.
These ones are these early '80s ones are imports from Germany. It's Warner Brothers, but it's made in Germany. So not all of them were released on Metal Blade. And some of them were just released on regular Warner Brothers. I guess the more popular albums were released on just Warner Brothers.
Yeah, and then they must have forgot about the later ones that people didn't really weren't as popular, right? Like the Muscle of Love and that one.
Alice Cooper Show. That's another Warner Brothers one. Yeah.
Oh, from the inside.
All cool stuff. I was looking for my From the Inside if I had it on LP, because I believe it's a die cut gatefold right on the cover. So like you open up the cover, those two doors, and it opens up. So I gotta find it. This is a cover. It's a split right here, and the doors open up.
Yeah, that's what Chad was talking about when you stepped away there for a second. Chad was talking about that's what kind of drew him to the album. That he's looking at his dad's album, and then he was peeling the covers open, like, oh wow, this is so cool, right? So
those are the best memories, right?
Mhm.
I have that memory with my mom. I was looking through a record collection at her mom's house, at my grandmother's house, and I found the Jimi Hendrix. What's that second album? Axis Bold as Love, and I'm like looking at the artwork, and I'm like, holy crap, this is awesome. This was like when I was a little kid, and I didn't actually start liking Hendrix till about 25 years ago. So I'm like, I got her album and I have it, and it's really cool because it brings back those memories.
very cool stuff. So it pretty well just kind of seems like I'm up next here, and I'm just kind of looking at my pile, my top 3 or 4, so to speak, that I'd throw in here, and I think I would typically go with something else, but I think I'm going to switch it up just to maybe see what you guys think about this. But regardless, I actually do think, even if I think even if I were to do a top 5, this would make my top 5. Actually, I think this album actually is that great. I was even listening to it before the show just to reaffirm in my brain that, hell, this is a great album. I wouldn't just pick it for the sake, but I think I'm going to throw up a from 2000, Along Came a Spider. Yeah.
Interesting
And,
choice.
I thought it'd be cool to, obviously there's going to be some 70s, 80s, maybe not so much 90s, but, I thought that Alice Cooper, I believe it's 2000 here. Yeah, no, it's 2008, sorry. I thought it was 2000, sorry. Brutal Prime's 2000, sorry. But 2008, but Along Came a Spider. This is actually one hell of an album. It's great. Pretty well, the whole album is great. And there even is Slash on the song. I think Vengeance Is Mine.
Yeah, he did the solo on that album, or for that song.
Slash is
There's-
on there. But other than that, the actual whole song is great. It's really good. Catch Me If You Can, Wrapped in Silk, I'm Hungry, and then the prologue 1 and 2. But yeah, this is a pretty rockin' album. It's not like heavy metal or nothing, but it's just a nice all around great Alice Cooper album. Actually, like, yeah, I don't know if anyone else has heard it or has any
Well,
opinion on it, but
I've listened to it. It's been a long time since I listened to it, but when it came out, I enjoyed it and for what it was. But it, personally for me, I mean, after a while, it a lot of his albums, like when the newer generation stuff, it took probably 3 listens for me to actually understand the album and get to enjoy kind of some of the music's coming out of it. But there's a lot of well-written stuff in there.
I'd say Keith. I know Keith did mention the word melodic earlier. I think he did say melodic or something like that. But this
right,
one,
right.
for me, has these really melodic, catchy choruses. Like they kind of like straightforward rock songs, but then the choruses kind of get very melodic and kind of slowy. But it's a really cool album. Yeah, I think if I were to, well, obviously did pick it, but if I were to choose like one of my more favorite later era Alice Coopers, like from whatever middle 90s and all the way up till now, I think this would be my favorite modern Alice Cooper album. There's Dragon Town. Again, there's almost hundreds of them, not actually hundreds, but 28 of them. But I think for my like modern Alice Cooper, this is my favorite kind of modern Alice Cooper album. Although Detroit Stories is really good too. And sorry.
But did you happen to catch like the video that he made to accompany it? Like I think it was a 12-minute video, which kind of has 3 of the songs from the album, but it was kind of all kind of wrapped together to tell the story of the spider.
Oh, cool. No, I didn't see that. That does sound interesting, though. No, I didn't see it. But this album is great. Again, it's probably my favorite kind of modern era Alice Cooper albums. There is a lot of them, and it's easy to get lost in all 28 albums. But that is one of my more favorite ones. Like I do like that one more than Brutal Planet. Yeah, just kind of more catchier choruses and things like that. I think that's what does it for me. That one. There's a lot of cool catchy choruses and songs that kind of are catchy and memorable. Like I play the album and I'm like, oh, I know all these songs. Like these are all very familiar to me. So that could just be another thing where I jam a lot of this stuff at work. And then at work, you tend to hear the songs over and over sort of thing. So I just got really accustomed and just really liked that album. As much as I'd almost like to choose maybe something else instead, but hey, maybe it'll show up instead and we'll talk about it anyway. So it's not that big of a deal. Obviously there is a great album from the later 80s that's just, is not deniable. So I'm thinking that'll show up either way. So
Did we talk about that album?
No, but we might. So well, I guess we'll continue on with I don't know. Well, did anyone else, Keith, do you remember, did you ever listen to Along Came a Spider or anything like that?
I don't think I've really heard that one too much, but I dig the cover. You can really see his hook nose on that cover.
That
right?
is, it's almost like Halloween time.
Very much, yeah. You see lots of pictures of Alice, and you don't really see that nose accentuated as well as on that cover. But I'll check it out for sure.
Yeah, I'd say not for you or just anyone casually watching or whatever in the future that if you did check out with Alice Cooper at the 80s when he started doing Goofy Constrictor, whatever, there is some of those old classic guys out there where Alice Cooper band and that's it. As soon as the band was done, I'm done too. So there is those guys right there. So I'd say if you were to check out a newer modern Alice Cooper, check out that one, eh? But cool. We'll actually go up with Keith here with I believe we're on our last round. So this is going to be kind of our number 1 sort of thing.
Alrighty. Well, I'm sure it's probably on a lot of people's list, and I kind of took the safe bets tonight, but we can't talk Alice without talking Killer, of course, right? Yeah, just that iconic cover that just screams Alice, we got on the back, we got that classic photo of them there with the makeup and all the boys. We got the snake.
Oh, that's cool. I've never seen that back photo before.
Yeah, it's a good one there. There's that Dennis Dunaway. Where's Dennis Dunaway? Right there, that amazing bass player. Yeah, this was a cool album. I think it comes with a calendar of some sort or something.
Yeah, I don't have one with a calendar.
I can
Oh,
tell
here
you
it is.
the CD version doesn't have no cool back like that. It's just got the. Oh, it just has
man.
a photo on the inside.
Where's it? Yeah, there's the calendar, and it's got the picture of Alice hanging there. But I'll try and
Oh, cool.
yeah. And just sort of neat little gimmick, eh? Give him a calendar. What year? It must have been from 72. 72. And this one was released the same year as Love It to Death, I think. I think this
Yes,
one.
the same year as Love It to Death.
Yeah, and just those two are just so good. What do we got on here? We got Under My Wheels, just a great opening song, and Be My Lover, which is kind of poppy. And then we got Halo of Flies, which is where they delve more into the sort of psychedelic jam. It's like an 8-minute song or something, I believe. And Jello Biafra actually covered that with the Melvins later on there. They did a cover of that. And then we have Desperado, which is, I think, an ode to Jim Morrison of the Doors there. And then we got You Drive Me Nervous, Yeah, Yeah, Yeah. And the last two tracks are probably the most standout on this album. We got Dead Babies, of course, which just tells an awful story about, I guess, neglect of children, and probably pretty controversial with a title called Dead Babies. But, you know, a lot of his songs from this era, they tell a story, and they're like a morbid story, I guess. But if you know, hear the title Dead Babies, you're obviously thinking controversy, and what are you doing singing about dead babies? But there's a message there, which makes it such a great album. And Killer, of course, closer track, just perfect. Definitely another 10 out of 10 album in my opinion.
I think some of the tracks and the lyrics are about the Vietnam War, which was still going on in 71, especially Halo of Flies, and I think Dead Babies and Killer might have been about kind of subtly about the Vietnam War. I think that's what I read, and it makes sense when I listen to the lyrics. So again, like Billion Dollar Babies, there's a lot of socio-political stuff going on in the lyrics, and there's a lot of layers, and that's why this early Alice Cooper stuff is so great, because you have to wrap your head around all what he's saying and figure out where he's going with the lyrics. So that's why this early stuff is cool. But sometimes it's just I just want to hear a good riff and a good hook, and I don't want to think. So that's why sometimes I go between the 80s and I go between this stuff, because it's like this stuff makes me think too much sometimes, and I don't want to think. Sometimes I just want to hear a solid riff and just that, you know.
Well, that's right. Yeah, sometimes you just want to jam out, right?
Yeah.
You don't have to wrap your head around it. And
Yeah.
then there's other times, you know, it's like, well, this is the shit, you know. This is a band at their peak, and just, you know, at the top of their game, and harnessing the craft. And yeah, we can't talk Alice without a little Killer, that's for sure.
And that's his that was actually was his snake. I think the snake's name was Kachina.
Oh, I'm not sure.
I think that was a snake. I was reading in that book, that Dennis Dunaway book, that was Alice's snake that he loved so much.
So was that the same snake from Constrictor then, you think?
No, because this was from 71. Constrictor was 86.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a time
So
gap.
I think this was one of his prized snakes. I think this was the one that was in the show at the time, because I guess he used the live snakes in the show,
Right.
which
Right.
probably would have been amazing to see.
Oh, I know. I'm cheesed. I was supposed to go see Alice. What was it? 2020 in Penticton, BC here, and then because of COVID, it got canceled, along with a couple other shows. Tool as well. I was supposed to go see there, and it's just too bad. You know, I'm sure I'll get another chance to see Alice. I don't think he's done touring quite yet, but yeah, it would have been great. Talk about.
I
the
think
show
he
from-
toured. I had the chance to see Alice a few times, but he was like touring with like Marilyn Manson, and I absolutely refuse to see Marilyn Manson. I will not see. I I don't like Marilyn Manson at all. I don't listen. I don't even know one of his songs. So I think he's not a good person. So I will not support that. But Alice Cooper, I will support.
Well, that's right. Maryland's going through some controversy right now, of course. So who knows if we'll hear from him in the next couple of years.
I remember that what was really going to be really cool. Well, for me, I've seen Alice Cooper a few times for me. So that wasn't going to be the super standout thing from that Alice Cooper show, that Penticton show that he was going to do in 2020. The big standout for me was that Lita Ford was going to be the opening band.
I know. I was looking forward to that.
Oh man, I would have loved to seen Lita Ford. Oh man,
Little Kiss Me Deadly. Yeah, would have been good.
that would have been great to see Lita. And yeah, no, I loved Lita Ford. I got all her solo albums, but that's a kind of whole nother discussion on itself. But it is kind of interesting. I kind of figured Alice Cooper concerts would pop up somewhere on the show. How could we not? He's been performing for what 50, almost 60 years now. So obviously we'd bring that up at some point. But I know me personally, I'll tell my little story, and we'll see if anyone's got any stories. But I've seen Alice Cooper two times, and it was kind of cool to bring it all around. But the first time I seen him was, I guess, the first time I seen Alice Cooper would be considered my first major concert. Maybe now it's kind of, I'm really not dating myself too badly, but my first major concert would have been 1999. I should have pulled out the ticket stub. I'm pretty sure I had the ticket stub. Maybe when someone else is going, I'll go get the ticket stub, but I'm pretty sure I sold the ticket stub. And it was just one of those things. I would have been whatever. I don't know the age. 14. Yeah, I would have been 14 at the time. And my mom just comes home from work and she says, "Hey, I have Alice Cooper tickets. Do you want to go?" I'm just like, "Yeah, cool." I'm a kid, right? I don't know any no different. So it's like, "Yeah, okay, cool, yeah." And remember, we were just down at the floor, and at that time, Alice Cooper is not super outlandish like he was in the 70s with his stage show. Like, he doesn't have every prop on earth like he did on the 70s, but there was kind of just this general stage show. I don't remember too much as I was fairly young. It was just a lot of people. And I remember near the end, all the balloons come out and everyone's popping the balloons and things like that. He's popping the balloon with his big sword and things like that. But it definitely wasn't like a 70s show, like where he's trying to do shock rock kind of stuff. I think it was more or less just like, hey, I gotta do this kind of stuff to please the fans. I think it's more or less sort of the thing, what he was doing already by the later half of the 90s, right? So I definitely obviously would have seen him in the 70s would have been probably much more crucial sort of thing. But and then to tie it all around, I went and seen Alice Cooper, I believe 2018 in Vancouver, and that was actually a much smaller venue. In 1999 he was playing the big arena, like the big full seated arena. But what was really cool about the show in 2017, it was kind of a smaller theater sort of thing. So
was that the Orpheum show?
It was a Queenie Theater. And it was like it was all seated, like it was a fully seated theater show. So it was kind of cool to see him in a smaller kind of venue sort of thing. But I don't believe my two shows nearly stacks up to the amount of times that you've seen him. How many times have you seen him, Chad?
7 times.
Yeah, wow. So
I started when I was 2.
Wow.
What tour was that?
What year was that?
I can't remember exactly what year it was, but it was one of his times coming through Kelowna. It was, I believe, a carnival themed tour for the original one. Like, it's been so, like, it was my first concert, so that was many concerts ago. But yeah, that was one of my first times seeing Alice, and that one featured the Iron Maiden as the main magic trick of his show, per se. So it was quite interesting because the clowns grab him, put him in the Iron Maiden, but the clown pulls off the mask and it's actually him. And it also had one of his snakes during that tour. And I think that was the only time live that I actually seen him with a snake. It's, I mean, really interesting. I think one of my favorite tours I saw him was the Theater of Death tour, which was also part of the Gruesome Twosome tour, which is when him and Rob Zombie were on tour together. And basically that Theater of Death tour was really amazing because he basically did all of his big deaths throughout the entire concert. I mean, they had brought out Nurse Rosetta with, I'd say, a 4-foot needle to the neck while he's, strapped up in the wheelchair, and it was really cool. And then, he's played Salmon Arm, played Vernon, he's done Kelowna, he's done Penticton a couple times now. And I mean, he's coming around again in April, but I mean, who knows if the way things are going, if it'll actually hold and actually happen again. I mean, one of the times I saw him was when he was opening for the Motley Crue tour. That was also neat, because it was their quote unquote finisher. Well, I mean, I've got some memorabilia, like I've got the signed Alice Cooper photo, which, I mean, that's held a prized position on my mantle for quite a long time. And then I tried to find some of my t-shirt collections, because I've got a fairly extensive Alice Cooper t-shirts, because I got a lot that were I thought were really neat for the time. I mean, I think my first actual band t-shirt was an Alice shirt from one of the many tours that I've seen.
Yeah, actually, I was thinking, I was like, he's seen Alice Cooper 7 times. He's probably got tons of tour shirts. He's gonna wear a tour shirt. He's gonna wear an Alice Cooper shirt. And then I was gonna ask you about that photo behind you there. Well, I see the poster, but then the photo you got signed. But does that obviously means that you would have done a meet and greet or something?
That particular one, I actually didn't get at a meet and greet session, because they only had like 10 of those at the particular concert I saw. So I'm like, sweet, I'm gonna snag that up. At the time, I didn't have the money for a meet and greet concert, and I really wanted to go to a meet and greet to meet Alice. But I still think it's awesome, because it is an actual signature of Alice. And that was from one of the Alice Cooper and Penticton shows. So, I mean, I'm hoping that if everything goes to plan, get to see Alice in Penticton, hopefully in the next year, but who knows?
Yeah, cool stuff. But then you never did meet him, though? No?
I did once by chance. It was just by sheer fluke. So basically, I had a choice. Either I go see Judas Priest and Anthrax, or I go see Alice Cooper, because Judas Priest was playing Vernon a couple days before, and Alice was a couple days after. So I went to work with my mom, because she was going to go right from work to the venue. Like, we're all going to meet up as family. And I was just wandering around Salmon Arm, and I ended up getting to I ran into Alice in the middle of Salmon Arm, and he was, down to earth. And it's probably one of my favorite moments of my life, because at that point I was, I'd say, 15. So, I mean, this is meeting one of your heroes right there in front of you.
Wow, that's really cool. Be wandering on Salmon Arm, and then all of a sudden you see Alice Cooper, like, oh Jesus.
I mean, and he's not in like any of his, tour gear because at that point he's mastered separating Alice on stage to Alice in everyday world.
He probably went golfing that day.
For sure. I mean, I've heard rumors, but I've never been able to confirm it that he had shares into that Salmon Arm golf course that's right off the industrial park. But I've still never confirmed it whether that is an actual fact or not.
I kind of vaguely did remember hearing rumors about he did have some ownership in the Canadian golf course. I didn't know which one specifically or nothing like that, but I
And
remember.
then another reason why he toured the Okanagan, for a while his primary jeweler was in the Okanagan area. So that's where he'd go get all of his blings and whatnot.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that. You jewelry, you said, right? Jewelry?
Yes.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow, that's cool. I didn't know that either. Wow.
No. Well, and obviously it's the Okanagan, so the golf is good.
Oh,
I mean, I'm sure that's why he toured around here the times of the years that he did, because there was still golf going on.
that's cool stuff. Yeah. Yeah, great stuff. And yeah, I just think we're where we were, and I believe we're at Bigdog's up next.
Oh, we're doing final picks, right?
Yes.
All right. So I'm gonna go with an album, keeping with my 80s theme. This was an album. It actually coincidentally was the first CD that I ever bought, way back in 1989, and I still have it in mint condition. Alice Cooper Trash. This is my favorite Alice Cooper album for primarily sentimental reasons. I know there's probably better Alice Cooper albums out there. I think that Keith has shown probably some better ones, but I like this one because when I was really young, I was just like an adolescent back in '89, and I was watching MTV and I saw the video for, what was it, for Poison, right? And the girl swinging around on the chain and she's like drenched in sweat, and Alice Cooper is walking around like he's like a new age pimp or something, and like I say the sadomasochistic element, and it like blew my 13-year-old mind away. I was like, whoa. So I had to go get the album. And actually this made me get a CD player first. I had a little Sony boombox that I got as my first CD player. I put this on and literally the hairs on the back of my neck stood up within the first synth, few seconds of the synth. Yeah. I mean, this is the CD, and it's still, for something that's over 30 years old, I kept it in mint condition. So you've got a whole bunch of there were a whole bunch of singles from this. Obviously the first song, Poison. I think there was House of Fire, which was another awesome song, and coincidentally I think that had Joe Perry on it. You can actually hear his guitar on it. He's got a very distinct guitar sound. I remember the ballad Only My Heart Talking, and I think there might have been one other single, but I don't remember what it was. Bon Jovi was on Hell Is Living Without You. I love every song on this. It's very 80s, but it's got a heavier vibe to it, and the songs are just like really killer hooks, killer melodies. I love the guitar riffs. Trash is a very funny song. Some of the lyrics are very funny. I'm Your Gun is hilarious, the last song on this album. And only recently did I actually get it on vinyl. I found it on vinyl somewhere in one of my local record stores. And really cool. I only paid $3 for it. $3.
Oh, cool.
Good find.
So I really love this album. I love the imagery of the album. All the videos were really cool. I just remember when I started watching MTV. I was a little kid, and I'm like, my mom was like, you shouldn't be watching that. And of course, maybe want to go back and watch more of it. So that's how I discovered all those albums from '89. Alice Cooper, so Poison, and then Aerosmith Pump was '89. So all that stuff I was really, really into. And this album, I played over and over and over again. And then a couple years later, I would get my first guitar and I would try to learn riffs off of it. So there's a lot of history for this from this album for me. And I love it that this is the first CD I ever bought. And thousands of CDs later, I still have it in mint condition, which is how I keep all my stuff. But yeah, I don't know if anybody else has any recollections of this album.
I mean, for me, that was the year that I was born. That album came out. So I mean, my parents would play that for me as I was old enough to get it. Like, oh, this is the album that you were, right around when you were born. So that, and I mean, and I'd say every couple of years, Trash would hit my rotation quite heavily, just because it's got a lot of those bangers on there that a lot of people recognize from that era of Alice. And I would think Poison, for sure, it's played every single concert of his without fail.
Yeah, I mean, every song on this album is pretty good. I mean, Spark in the Dark is good. House of Fire, Why Trust You, Bed of Nails, This Maniac's in Love with You. Every song's got like big arena hooks, and the production on this album is really good. It's got like that perfect mid-rangey trebly production that I really love from all those 80s albums. When it got into the 90s, it got more of a heavier bottom end and there was less treble. So that's where I kind of checked out a little bit with a lot of the 90s guys. The guys who were doing it in the 80s and the 90s, sometimes they switched. Dio sounded a lot different in the 90s than it did in the 80s. And that's where I kind of lost touch with a lot of these guys that were really big in the 70s and 80s. And the 90s came around, they tried to kind of fit in the grunge era. They were trying to find a different vibe so they could fit in with all those guys. And that's where they lost me a little bit. And then they got me back in the 2000s and the 2010s and now, where they kind of revert back to that 70s 80s sound a little bit. That's where they got me back again listening to them. But this is the album that started it all for me. Coincidentally, my first tape that I ever bought was Aerosmith Pump. That was the first tape that I ever bought with my own money. This was the first CD, Everything from '89, which is when I started really listening to music and noticing, started to get into girls and watched all those sexy MTV videos, and yeah, lots of memories.
Yeah, not much more to be said than you already said, running through the track list. But yeah, there's definitely some big hits that he had on that album, some big hits that are still obviously still that he plays in his concerts. So, that album obviously can't be disregarded in any fashion. Yeah. And
this DVD is badass too from that tour.
This would definitely make my top 3 had you didn't pick it. Or I kind of was assuming or hoping it would come up, and that's why I threw up my Along Came a Spider instead of Trash, actually. But yeah, we get to talk about it either way. So
I love how it says it's explicit and violent content. They have to warn all the American parents.
Violent.
Explicit content, sexual and violent content. The only violent sexual content is when the nurses come out, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Chad, but the nurses come out or something and he slaps one of the women or something, and that's considered sexually violent. Like he fake slaps one of the women.
I can't remember that particular tour exactly well. Like I can remember certain scenes from the concert, but I can't remember what was actually explicit about that particular one. Like,
so that's where I think they had issue with that part of the concert where he slaps one of the women. He fake slaps them. Obviously they're acting. It's all it's a rock opera kind of thing. So it's theater. Alice Cooper's rock theater, and that's what you want when you want to be entertained. You want theater, right? Who's one of the best guys at it? Obviously Alice Cooper. Kiss is good at it, but I think Alice Cooper was before Kiss. He did that whole shtick before. He probably taught Kiss how to do it.
I think this is the album, if I were to say that the something super 80s, this is the one that's super 80s written all over it, right? A lot of these, like Poison and Bed of Nails, you got these super keyboard driven backgrounds, right? But then the songs are super heavy, right? So it's just that total 80s where the keyboards were coming in, right? Ozzy was doing keyboards on the Sin album. So I think, obviously that stuff was going on in big people, a lot of bands were experimenting, but then still doing the rock. So this is one of those albums that are super it's got that big arenas, a big arena 80s sound and some synth keyboards and all sorts of stuff. But then the big hooks and the big songs. So this is just a super 80s album.
There's a ton of other famous people on here. Like Joe Perry's on there playing guitar, John Bon Jovi's singing, Steven Tyler's on singing backgrounds on one of these songs. I think there's other people too. I don't even know if maybe Lita Ford might even be on this album somewhere. I think Slash was on the next. Kip Winger's on this album. Steven Tyler, Richie Sambora, Kane Roberts. Yeah.
It seemed like there would have been quite a high budget for this album as well. It just seemed like all the videos that were coming out were all high budget. The sound and production's all high budget. I just feel like he had quite a big budget for this. And I don't know whether it was like Epic or CBS Records or whatever is giving them a bunch of money for it. But obviously that was the time where record sales and records were all just booming and selling like crazy. So I can definitely sense that there was a big production for this album, money going into it and things like that. Definitely with the rollout, the music videos and things like that.
It's got a great sound to it too. Like I said, when I first heard it back in '89, the hairs on the back of my neck stood up. I was just like, that's what music that moves me does to me. Moves you. That's the only reason why we listen to music, because it resonates with us somehow. Well, when you're 13 years old, this stuff really resonated with me. It still does, actually. I still listen to this album, not as much as I used to, but 30 years later, it's still a good album.
Absolutely, yeah. If it hadn't got chosen, I'd probably put it up there, but yeah, it's definitely good. You cannot deny that it's 80s goodness, 80s rock goodness. So we'll go up with Chad here, and we'll get your last pick here.
All right, I'm gonna go back all the way to 1971 with the Love It to Death album. Now, the reason why I chose that one, that's kind of where I feel like the Alice Cooper groups sound, like that's where they actually got their sound and kind of, they became the iconic noises that we kind of think of, and that was also their first time working with Bob Ezrin as a producer. And it cleaned up a lot of their songs, because I think like when they're originally performing, nobody understood like what 18 was. Like they thought they were singing I'm edgy, but really it was I'm 18. And singing about all the challenges that they're going through, like with 18, like you're not old enough to do some things, but you're old enough to do things, and everything's just chaotic, but you absolutely love it. And then for me that song also holds true, because when I got into roller derby, which is my number I chose was actually 18, and my first game that I played in, I actually did the full Alice makeup while playing in my first game, and I've kind of always used that as my de facto pump up song when I'm trying to get into separate from going from again, much like Alice, from my regular personality, which is shy and meek, to my other personality where I'm a much more vicious, brutal personality. And for that particular song. And then I always loved A Long Way to Go, because whenever I was like on a big road trip or whatever, that was always one of the songs that I would put on the mixtapes as well. And then I just love all of the different, songs on there. And then as well, track 8, Ballad of the Dwight Fry, that's sticked with his core show for all. And also last year was the 50th anniversary of this album. So I mean, just thinking of that sheer number itself staggers me as well. Because I mean, this is kind of like the start of the journey to, Alice being the Alice that we know now.
Yeah, you can't talk Alice about I'm 18, right? That song, it touches all the boxes, of teenage angst, and it doesn't really explode. Like, it's not like he's freaking out, but he's 18 and he's upset. And I think we all can remember being 18 and jamming out that song and being like, this is my time, being 18. Is Black Juju on that album, or is that?
Yes, it's track 4.
I wanted
That's
to
a
bring
good
that
one.
track. I was going to bring that track up as well, actually. So it's good that you did.
Yeah, I just love that, sort of out there vibe without being too out there. And yeah, good era. 71 was probably the year of Alice there.
Well, I mean, that's why we had like the double 2 albums released that year, because it was commonplace for that time where you would have an album, tour for 3 months, release another album in the same year period. So you're doing 2 albums in a year, and it's just absolutely, you're pumping out the albums, and that's probably why they got worn out near the end, because it was just all they did was album tour.
That's right. But in retrospect, thank God they did that, right? We got all this awesome material, and if you got a good thing going, a good thing rolling, keep it going, keep those mics alive, and we can look back and really enjoy that material now.
Yeah, I'd say these are my 2 favorite 70s Alice Coopers for sure. The Killer and Love It to Death. And I'm glad that Love It to Death did get brought up, because I think many people would agree that the Killer and the Love It to Death are very iconic for Alice Cooper. And yeah, I did want to bring up that Black Juju song. That's incredible. I actually just listened to that a couple nights ago. Nothing to do with the show. It's just I felt like I hadn't played it for a while and just felt like listening to it. But that Black Juju song for 9 minutes, it actually keeps up a fairly good pace. Like it's interesting the whole way through. I know on some sometimes super long songs can get like maybe there's like a super long intro and a super long outro. That song doesn't really have nothing too much like that. It's pretty well kind of like it kind of goes continuously all the way through. Like there's not really much boring aspect, even though it's a 9-minute song. Like it's like a great 9-minute song, like kind of like a rocker. It does get a little trancey and psychedelic, at a couple of times during the midpoint. But other than that, like for a 9-minute song, it holds your attention really well.
It's also another song that's one of his staples live, because I mean, for me, like iconically, like him coming out with his maracas and playing, going into the lead hook of that song is always really, that's always a high point for me when I see him live.
Yeah, definitely. I know when I played that the album, and I played Black Juju, I was kind of just doing whatever, and I realized that, hey, I'm still in that Black Juju song, but it was interesting the whole way through, like fun, great.
I mean, another aspect of looking at the album is that was back when, you had to have a side 1 and a side 2, and that was the closer song for side 1 of the album. And I think that's an important thing to kind of note about some of those older albums, is looking at the song choices that they chose for, closing out the side 1 of an album is a pivotal choice for me as well.
That's a good note too, actually, as well. Yeah, everything would have been vinyl back then, and they would have had to really think about making sure all these songs would fit on a vinyl, or else they'd have to change the speed, and then it would decrease the quality. So they were trying to keep the quality up. So I think a lot of bands were really mindful of that.
Does anybody have the censored cover with the thumb cover? It's called for that album. There was so I can go get it, but Alice, he had his thumb peeking through like in the middle, like with his dick. So they censored it because it looked like a dick. So and subsequent covers didn't have the thumb. It was covered up.
There is.
I don't even think
Yeah,
I
About that?
No, I had that album. It was one of my first records I actually ever picked up was Love It to Death. And I didn't really care too much about quality of vinyl, but I ended up selling it quite recently in a lot. So I got to pick up another copy of that one because it's classic, right?
Yeah, and then I never got the Schools Out with the Panties. That's what
Yeah,
Alice Cooper. He was with a gimmick. He had these always there with the gimmicks,
I know. And this one was one of my first two. Was The School's Out, of course, but it didn't come with the panties. But I think it folds up into a desk or
Yeah.
something.
Yep, it folds
Yeah,
out. Should
like
fold out into like a desk.
It's got
Yep.
the flap on the back there, right? So just cool, like with the gimmicks, right? And that's Alice for you, right? He
Well,
was a
I mean,
gimmicky
even
dude.
looking at some of his gimmicks, I believe it was with Love It to Death that they did their the big stunt where they like had a truck stop in the middle of rush hour in England or something like that. I know I don't know if it was this album or later on in his career, but it was still, that's how they broke different markets, was just doing outlandish gimmicks.
Yeah, definitely. I guess back then there was more budgets to pull off these album covers that would open and gatefolds and flipping into tables or double panel opens, things like that. So that stuff's really cool. And I guess there probably was so much music and vinyl coming out back in the 70s that they had to be creative and try to catch people's attention, right? So
I mean, I think that's what we've lost with some of the modern day albums and whatnot. We don't have the creativity of the album covers anymore, like, because they don't, like with a vinyl, it's basically a big presentation.
is that
Yeah,
what you're
it's-
talking about with the finger
it's a
sticking
shame,
through?
Yep, that's the bad cover.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Yeah.
So if you look at your CD, it's covered up.
Did they just like digitally erase his finger then?
Yep. Yep.
Is that a second or is that another photo? One with and one without, but
So yeah, there was a controversy about that cover.
oh, I never heard of that one either.
Yeah, the thumb cover. That's his thumb, strategically placed. They did that on purpose. Come on. I got this pretty recently. It's a pretty nice copy. Yeah, it's a great album.
Yeah, definitely. I figured Killer and Love It to Death is going to show up on the show somewhere. If it didn't, it would probably be a crime. Like, hey, you doing this Alice Cooper show
My
without
sealed
mentioning-
reissue copy of $1 Billion Babies.
Oh, nice.
Ooh, nice and tiny. It looks like they kind of spiffed up the snake leather, the snake skin.
Yeah, they really they did a good job on his reissues. I got this one in 2010.
Oh well.
I was
that
probably
was
going through a
So gatefold.
secondary Alice phase.
Yeah, cool. So I guess I guess I'll show my last pick, and I ain't gonna switch up. This is my number one, regardless of whatever's trying to swap things. But this is still my number one, regardless. And David has already picked it, so I kind of hate to pick the same thing twice. But there's no denying how much I love this album, just for its super fun factor. It's silly, it's fun. So I got to go with Constrictor here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Nice.
And yeah, again, it's just super fun. There's rock songs, there's catchy, it's kind of silly. Obviously, he's not taking himself too seriously here. Obviously, with a song like Thrill My Gorilla, he's not taking himself overly serious. So yeah, just super fun, goofy, straightforward rockers, maybe not fully metal. So it's kind of just a really nice mix of before he went all out metal with the album, but then it's not super downer or depressive like some of his Blackout era. So I think it's that good middle phase for me. And yeah, I don't know what caused him to kind of go so goofy. Like Simple Disobedience is obviously, like a young rebellious kind of goofy song. So yeah, I just cannot deny like Teenage Frankenstein, Throw My Gorilla, Simple Disobedience, Crawling. Yeah, you've got me crawling, and it's like this really kind of dancey, funny rock song. But yeah, most of this album is great, and it is my favorite Alice Cooper song. It's like one of those ones that'll like pick me up, like say if I'm maybe down or maybe not, maybe in a bad mood. If I go into work and I play some of these songs, Throw My Gorilla, it's like all of a sudden I'm back in the mood, right? So yeah, it's just one of those albums for me that again, if I was down or whatever, it just brings me back up. just because it's overly funny, overly goofy. A lot of the songs maybe he's not taking himself too seriously. So yeah, I'm not really sure what he was going through in his life, like in terms of like reading a book wise. I'm not really sure what he has to say about this album in particularly, but it's kind of clear that he was kind of goofing off a little bit, but I love it.
Probably a case where the record executives say, "Oh wow, that's cool." Record executives are like, "You need something. You need a hit. You need a hit. You need the kids to buy your album. So make these songs kind of goofy and funny."
Right. Maybe that is a good point. Maybe he was trying to make himself more relevant to the younger kids, the younger audience that was getting into the rock and the glam scene and things like that. Yeah, with the Teenage Frankenstein, Simple Disobedience, Crawling, Great American Story. But yeah, this is my number one. So
that LP that you have is that super expensive. Constrictor
Is it?
LP
Yeah.
here. It's expensive.
Oh god. Yeah, 86. I just picked this up about a month or two ago I got it on one of the bid sites locally here, but I got it for $7. I just got a steal of a deal, right?
Yeah.
It's just mint. It's awesome. It's
Yeah.
got the rainbow MCA label.
That's awesome.
It's a good one. I'll trade you for trash.
Oh, the trash one?
I'll trade you.
I would do that trade.
Yeah? No, we'll
I would
talk
do that
later.
trade.
Nice. Yeah, cool inner Alice in all his glory.
I was gonna say when trash got bought up, my dumbass, I was like, I didn't even look to see what I owned, but I was sitting on my computer and I'm like, I need trash. So then I end up buying trash. And then all of a sudden when trash shows up, I'm like, wait, it's not trash I needed, it's Hey Stupid. So then I was stupid and I bought trash twice. So that's why earlier showing up, I stuck the second CD in this one. I own 2 copies of trash by accident.
You've got two different pressings though. That's a different press.
Yeah, one's a German one. One came like authentically from German, and the other one is just like a Canadian USA one or whatever. But I have the case for the other one. Obviously, I just I needed cases, so I took it out of the case. But yeah, my dumbass ended up buying trash twice, but I actually meant to buy Hey Stupid. So I'm Hey Stupid.
What else?
Yeah, you're better off.
We mentioned Dada a couple times.
That's a good album.
Yeah, like it is. What's the intro on this?
I was
Dada.
like, I don't think Dada's going to be showing up in anyone's top 3 favorites. You never know.
I know. I think they had this one. It was a little shop in Kelowna, Backroom Records there, and yeah, it was either this one or Special Forces, and I went with this one just because of the art, right? The Dada art. It's like that's like a face there, right?
That's cool. It's interesting art, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, like I guess Alice was good friends. We're not, I don't know about good friends, but friends with Salvador Dali and all his awesomeness. Yeah,
It's like a skull on here. You see, it's like a face.
yeah, right. Like
There's the eyes. There's the
Oh,
nose.
I never noticed that actually. Yeah, I do see it when you show the CD. I do actually see the eye.
yeah, it's cool.
Kind of looks like George Washington a little bit, I guess.
Yeah, he's got like the
Because
beard.
on the vinyl, it almost looks like it's just the girl's hair.
I guess it's kind of how you look at it. Further away, hey?
Yeah, like you almost just think it's the girl's hair, but on the CD, it's no more noticeable for whatever reason.
Yeah, and you got Alice there, and some crazy old guy. So, yeah, good stuff.
I played this album constantly in college, and everybody in my dorm was like scratching their head. They're like, "What is that crap?" I'm like, "It's Alice Cooper. Shut up."
Yeah, love it.
Yeah, that my roommate didn't particularly like it. He's like, "Oh no, you're playing that album again?" I'm like, "Yep." Enough, see enough, see enough, see enough.
I got this one too, of course, right? The Alice Cooper show. What year did this come out? This was 77. I thought that would have been later on, but yeah. Let's see what we got here.
But I'd say if it's like, say we were at the end of the show and we were to do like honorable mentions or something, I'd say my two honorable mentions that I would want to bring up, like for underrated, would be the Zipper album and Muscle of Love. I've always thought Muscle of Love and the Zipper album was great for like underrated, overlooked Alice Cooper albums. I don't know if anyone has like their kind of their most underrated album or whatever.
I love this. I love this disco-iness.
That definitely goes down the depths. Like he's going down the rabbit hole on that
I'm
one.
always
that one, yeah.
chasing rainbows.
Yeah, he's going down the rabbit hole. Like he's going deep into the depths of,
Hell,
yeah.
he's going down. I play this album. I actually play this album a lot.
There's a few songs I can't even bear on that album.
Like, I Never Cry's pretty good.
See, the thing about this one, it's got like the water damage, right? And I guess a bunch of vendors like return the album because it's supposed to look like that, but they thought, oh, it's defective or whatever, right?
Actually, well, even on the CD, you can see it shows that it does have that stain sort of thing.
Yeah, yeah, it's cool. When I found this, I was like so intrigued by it because it's like cardboard, right? It just looks like a box.
Oh,
But yeah,
cool.
fun-
Does it feel
fun
cardboard?
listening to it. It's got
Yeah,
Alice in.
That the brothel scene's kind of funny.
Look at the back there. What the hell were they up to, eh? He's partying hard. It's
Yeah.
on the old Warner
Overlooked
label there.
Alice Cooper album for sure.
Palm trees, yeah. I gotta give that one another chance.
Yeah, I'd say this one and Zipper Catches Skin was two underrated ones for me. That I would have loved to have fit in my top three, basically.
Kind of like the Paranormal.
I do too. There are some skippers, but in general, that's an album that is I was gonna say like a slow builder. I'm looking for another word, but you know, it's a slow builder.
I guess this one has the, what is it, a
I
DVD?
like Paranormal, yeah. Oh yeah, you got the cool digipack version. Yeah, I wanted that one. I just couldn't find it at the time, so I just settled for the regular jewel case one. But
Cool stuff. I have yet to hear this album yet, but I will open it at some point.
I like Holy Water. Holy Water is a cool track on that one. Holy Water. And obviously Fireball is great. I think Fireball was the lead single, I think a single for that album, but Fireball is cool too. And,
I like this.
Genuine American Girl is cool too. I like that one.
Yeah, it's a good song with the original band.
Yeah, Genuine American Girl is a good one too.
Yeah, this is an honorable mention for me too. I like all the 80s stuff. that first single, Freedom, first track, that's heavy metal. With he does all the harmonics and stuff on the guitar.
Oh, I know. I think earlier when I did mention this band where I was like, oh, a lot of the bands were going down that heavy metal trend because that was big, right, in the middle 80s, back half the 80s. And another band that shifted over to heavy metal was Kiss. Well, we already did the Kiss show, but Kiss went full on, heavy metal in the mid 80s there. And Alice Cooper did too.
I think like two albums that almost made my list, but not quite, were like the 2005 Dirty Diamonds, just because that was, a fairly pivotal one for me. And then, I mean, School's Out, I mean, it should have been like it's almost a no-brainer one, but it almost made my list as well. Like, it's just, if we would have been five, those two would have probably been on my list as well.
It's funny. I think maybe everyone can relate maybe at some point in their life when I know me, I used to just really love the movie Dazed and Confused back in the, back in the 90s there. I was a kid, I was smoking weed and shit. And that song School's Out is on Dazed and Confused. And there's a scene in Dazed and Confused when at the start of the movie, everyone's the school bell rings. And down the hallways, they start throwing the papers everywhere. The papers are flying everywhere. And I did that one year. One year the schools was out, and I just had that image in my head. I'm like, I'm just gonna throw papers everywhere. Just start throwing papers everywhere. I was like, look, I don't care. And I swear I did that just because of the Alice Cooper song "School's Out." Right? I'm hearing in my head. I'm like, "School's out!" Just start winging the papers everywhere. Who cares about the mess? School's out.
Oh yeah, one of my buddies last day of school, I don't know why they let him do it, but he goes into the office and he's playing the song over the PA system, right? And then like blowing the speakers on the PA system. It was just like a mess, but it was hilarious.
I would imagine all the kids were throwing the papers too at that point.
Oh, yeah, getting excited, yeah.
I definitely recommend if you're a janitor, call in sick that last day of school. Do not show up for the last day of school if you're a janitor. It looks like David froze there or something like that, but it's funny. Oh, that's it. I was like, whoa, that's your face. Okay.
No, that was my actual face.
Like, oh, it looks like he froze there for a second. I was going, you fucking fooled me. You should have held that for another minute. I was like, yeah, David's froze. I guess we'll get out of here. Like, that was hilarious. I actually thought you were frozen there for a second.
Oh man.
But anyway, cool. Kind of looks like we're winding down the show. We're kind of done with the show here. We all said what we had to say. We showed our three picks. We kind of showed some honorable mentions, things like that. Some other things that couldn't quite make it in the list. Again, he's got 28 studio albums, so it's like, holy Jesus Christ. Try listening to the whole Alice Cooper studio albums in one day. Impossible. So, it's quite a big task. But either way, he's got a ton of albums to digest and listen to for a lifetime. He's got a lifetime of work to listen to. And yeah, I don't know if anyone's got last little chimes or whatever, but it's great. And David, you do definitely need to go see Alice Cooper before he does retire. Although it seems like he's going to be one of those guys that may end up like dying on the road or something. I don't know. I
had the chance. I'm regretting it. I've had the chance to see so many people that are gone now, and I never did because I'm like, oh, they'll just come around the next year. They'll come around the next year, and then they're gone. So you got to cherish these guys while they're still around.
And yeah, I got actually one thing I did forget to bring up was this guitarist that he later had this female guitarist that he had later on in his career, right? He had Orianthi play with him for a bit, and then now he's got Nita Strauss. So he's backed by some cool female rockers. And Nita Strauss is becoming quite a well-known name. I dig her. She's pretty cool. But it's actually weird is Alice Cooper's never really let her write any songs for him yet. It's like she's been in the band for I think 10 years or something, and she actually hasn't recorded any studio albums with him. So
It's like Ozzy doesn't let Zach Wild write any songs anymore.
right, yeah, that's a similar actually. That's a very similar situation, yeah. But yeah. Very cool. I guess we're winding down the show there. Thanks for all the guests for doing the show. It was great having y'all and doing this little Alice Cooper chat. And if anyone's want to do their waving goodbyes, but subscribe, mosh, and see you later.
Stay metal.